Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. You see right there on the left, Vice President Kamala Harris taking to the mic. Over on the right, Donald Trump getting ready to take to the mic. Both of them in North Carolina. Let's listen in to what's happening over there on the left side of your screen. The Vice President of the United States rallying in Raleigh and about to make a closing argument to voters in that key state.
Back in North Carolina. Thank you all, and all the incredible leaders who are here. Thank you all, everyone, for taking time out of your busy lives to be here this afternoon. I thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank my dear friend, Governor Roy Cooper, Attorney General Josh Stein, who will be your next governor, Representatives Nicole Ross Fushi, and Mayor Baldwin. I thank you all and all the leaders who are here. So Raleigh, early voting, as Jennifer said, has started. Here in Wake County, you can vote early now through Saturday, November 2nd. And we need you to vote early, North Carolina. Because we have just 6 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. And we have work to do. But we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is joyful work. And make no mistake, we will win. We will win. Yes, we will. And we will win. We will win because when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. And we know we have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump, who has been trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other. We know that is who he is, but North Carolina, that is not who we are. That is not who we are. And it is time for a new chapter where we stop with the pointing fingers at each other and instead let us lock arms with one another, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready with you. I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America. And North Carolina, you know, I've been here many, many times over the years, and you know this. I am not afraid of tough fights. For decades as a prosecutor and as the top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, against cartels that trafficked in guns and drugs and human beings. And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf as president, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way. Donald Trump is. This is not someone who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. In less than 90 days, either he or I will be in the Oval Office. Big differences between he and I, but I would say a major contrast is this. If he is elected on day one, Donald Trump will walk into that office with an enemies list. When I am elected, I will walk in with a to-do list full of priorities about what I will get done for you, the American people. And at the top of my list is bringing down your cost of living. That will be my focus every single day as president. I will give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. Enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. And fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. And if you are caring for an elderly parent, my plan will cover the cost of home care under Medicare so that seniors can get the help and care they need to stay in their own homes. And my plan will lower the cost of child care, cut taxes for small businesses, and lower health care costs, because I believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. On the other hand, Donald Trump's answer to the financial pressures you face is the same as last time. Another $1 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations. And this time, he will pay for it with a 20% Trump national sales tax on everyday basic necessities, which will cost the average American family nearly $4,000 more a year. On top of that, you will pay even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and ends the Affordable Care Act, which will throw, if he were to win, which would throw millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. You remember what that was like? Well, we are not going back. We are not going back. Because ours is a fight for the future. And it is a fight for freedom. Like the fundamental freedom of a woman to be able to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. And we all remember how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did. And now in America, 1 in 3 women lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban, including in North Carolina and every state in the South except Virginia. Think about that. Many with no exceptions, even for rape and incest, which is immoral. And Donald Trump, understand, he's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide. He would restrict access to birth control, put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025. Just Google it. Read the plans yourself and let us agree. One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree, the government should not be making that decision for you.
All right, so we are hearing Vice President Kamala Harris making her closing arguments at a rally in Raleigh. On the left side of your screen, you're hearing a lot of excitement. From the right side of your screen, Representative Byron Donald getting the vote out also in North Carolina, but for the Republicans. Donald Trump about to step to that mic. We're watching for that. But while we wait for the former president to step to that mic and make his case to people in North Carolina, let's go live now to CBS News political director Finn Gomez. Finn, when I watch Kamala Harris make that closing argument in North Carolina, I am mindful of her time as a prosecutor. She almost, last night in Washington, D.C., and today, sounds very much like an attorney, like a prosecutor making closing arguments to a jury.
You know, Reed, I think that's absolutely right. When I was there at the rally last night and also in hearing this rally, it is a similar tone, and that's that prosecutorial tone. It's Vice President Harris making her closing argument, just like a prosecutor does in front of a jury in a big case, let's say. So right now she's contrasting her points, her key points in her campaign, key issues, but also trying to illustrate the contrast between herself and former President Trump. One, she says, is really, it amounts to one of optimism and positivity versus the dark rhetoric that's emanating from the Trump campaign, and also the two paths, not only on the tenor, but also on policy, on key issues that matter, especially to her base. She referenced abortion rights. That's a big one, a central issue for her campaign. And again, she is barnstorming across the battleground states today, as is Donald Trump. They're both having these dueling rallies in North Carolina, but they're also going to be in Wisconsin today as well, in that key blue wall state. You know, it is just 6 days away, Reed, and it's all systems go here as well for these candidates.
And, you know, she's known for trying to keep things optimistic, but today she might need to keep it optimistic because, of course, her camp is fighting headlines after something that you saw and brought to our attention, and that is President Joe Biden referring in non-favorable terms to Trump supporters. We had a chance to hear from the vice president before she went to North Carolina commenting on Joe Biden's comments. Stay with us. We want to play that response to our viewers and then talk to you about it after.
First of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. And as President of the United States, I will be a president for all Americans, whether you vote for me or not. That is my responsibility, and that's the kind of work that I've done my entire career, and I take it very seriously.
Finn, this sort of feels like a study in left hook, right hook at the last minute, at the end of the fight. You know, we saw the comment about Puerto Rico at Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. That literally gave fuel to the Democrats to give a left hook, so to speak, to Republicans. Now it looks like Republicans could steal the headline and deliver a right hook using Joe Biden's own words. What do you say?
No, absolutely. I spoke to a source close to the Harris campaign who told me that this was flat out what he said was dumb. The fact that it happened, and the fact that it even occurred on, this gaffe occurred on the day of her major address. Look, the White House has been trying to clean up the president's comments, saying that he was not referring, when he referred to his supporters, meaning Trump supporters, as garbage. He wasn't referring to them specifically, but to the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that was coming from that Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday. However, you know, it did interrupt the headlines of this major address that she had last night. It was offer a distraction as well. Whatever the reason, whatever what he said, the damage has been done in the sense that it opened up, this criticism from the right, from Republicans, saying it has echoes of the 2016 Hillary Clinton, basket of deplorables comment. I don't think they're a little bit of apples and oranges, but it's the same sort of, it allows for new headlines. It allows for, discussions about that instead of discussions about, the rhetoric that we heard in New York on Sunday.
Well, and we also saw Donald Trump in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where, by the way, a lot of people with a heart for Puerto Rico live and vote. So we know that Harris is scheduled for a campaign stop in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania later today. What do we expect to hear from her?
Yeah, and you know, that's exactly right. You know, he was there yesterday. This is, again, in the aftermath, as you referred to, of those comments, those jokes about, you know, about Puerto Rico and, you know, off-color, inflammatory, racist jokes about not just them, but, you know, black people and Latinos overall. And I think what the Harris campaign has told me is that they do believe that this does offer an ability to, a chance for them to contrast again. You know, what they say is their message and positive message to these key voting groups. And while at this, you know, Trump-sanctioned rally, there was this, you know, this racist and hateful rhetoric. They feel that it has legs, that can move the dial in that key battleground state of Pennsylvania. You know, whereas in our latest poll, Reed, you saw that from Anthony Salvanto, it is just a dead heat. Yeah. You know, so if there's a few thousand voters here or there in Pennsylvania, maybe these Latino voters in that Latino corridor in the center of the state, or Puerto Rican, you know, or Puerto Rican voters specifically, then that can make a difference, and they're hopeful that it can.
Well, and in this fight, the voters get the final say, and we know that you'll be on top of it when those results start to come in.
Right.
Finn Gomez, always great to talk to you, friend.
Thank you, Reed.
All right, so you can watch election night results, analysis, and exclusive CBS polling with the CBS News team live from our headquarters in New York, and also our team spread out throughout the country, especially in those key battleground states. Coverage starts at 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS News 24/7 and 7 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Let's talk about this. An attack by Israeli forces in Gaza. Children are dead, and many at that. Why the U.S. calls this attack horrifying? And they're asking Israel to provide more answers and fast. More on that story straight ahead. Stay with us. CBS News 24/7 campaign coverage continues, and we thank you for watching. What are you seeing there on your screen? Well, on the left, Donald Trump's rally in North Carolina. People getting ready to see the former president stump for votes in that state. We're also seeing in the middle, Kamala Harris moments after she addressed voters in Raleigh at a rally. And then moments ago, video from a rally also in North Carolina. That's a guy right there standing with his camera phone and nodding. He likes what Governor Tim Walz has to say. Supporters of the Walz-Harris ticket there know that early voting is so important in North Carolina. Hey, just a minute ago, Kamala Harris talked about not only wanting to bring Democrats under the tent, but also Republicans. Listen.
Because we know we're actually fighting for a democracy. And unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table. And I pledge to be a president for all Americans and to always put country above party and self. So North Carolina, it all comes down to this. We are here together because we love our country. That's why we are here. And when you love something, you fight for it. And I do believe it is one of the highest forms of patriotism to fight for the ideals of our country and to fight to realize the promise of America. And I have always believed in our nation's yes. And like all of us here, I have always believed in our nation's promise because I have lived it. I grew up as a child of the civil rights movement. My parents would take me to marches when I was in a stroller, where people of every walk of life came together to fight for the ideals of freedom and opportunity. I've lived the promise of America. I saw how hard my mother worked to give her daughters the same chances our country gave her. Growing up, I was blessed to have family by blood and family by love who instilled in me the values that have always defined our nation best. Values like community, compassion, and faith. I've lived the promise of America, and I've spent my life fighting for the people who have been hurt and counted out, but never stopped believing in our country that anything is possible. I've lived the promise of America, and I see the promise in all of you, in the women who refuse to accept a future without reproductive freedom, in the men who support them, in Republicans who never voted for a Democrat before but put the Constitution of the United States before party. I see the promise of America in all the young leaders who are voting for the first time. Let me see you. I love you guys, because you are rightly impatient for change. You young leaders, you've only known the climate crisis and are leading the charge to protect our planet and our future. You young leaders who grew up with active shooter drills, who are trying to keep our schools safe. You who have known fewer rights than your mothers and grandmothers and are standing up to fight for freedom, to make your own decisions about your own bodies. None of this for you young leaders is theoretical. This is not theoretical for you. It is not political for you. For our young leaders, this is your lived experience. And I see you, and I see your power. And I am so proud of you. Can we applaud all our first-time voters and young leaders who are here? Let's applaud them. See? Our future is bright. I'm telling you, our future is bright. So, North Carolina, we have 6 days to get this done. And no one can sit on the sidelines. So let's spend the next 6 days so that when we look back at these 6 days, we will know we did everything we could. So right now it's time to go out from here and knock on some doors. Time to text and call some voters. Time to reach out to family and friends and classmates and coworkers and neighbors. And as we do, let us please be intentional about building community. Let us please be intentional about building coalitions. Because through all of that, we strengthen our nation. Because we know and will always remember the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And we are all in this together. So remember, your vote is your voice, and your voice is your power. So, North Carolina, I then ask you, are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Vice President Kamala Harris making her case to voters just moments ago at a rally in Raleigh. You know who else is in North Carolina? Former President Donald Trump, who would like to take the keys to the White House. Let's listen in to his comments to his supporters in that same state.
Well, thank you very much, North Carolina. You are a special group of people. In fact, my beautiful little grandchild, the most beautiful little girl you've ever seen, is named Carolina. Do you know that? I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. But I'd like to ask you one very simple, easy to answer question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I think so. I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans with your vote in this election. Oh, it's coming up so nice. We're down to 6 days, maybe sort of 5. Maybe 5 the way you count it. 6 days, can you imagine? I will end inflation. I will stop the massive invasion of criminals into our country. And I will bring back a thing called the American dream. Isn't that nice? Because we haven't had that. We haven't had that in a long time. Our country will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. And this election is a choice between whether we'll have 4 more years, think of this, 4 more years of gross incompetence, the most corrupt, horrible people. These are horrible people. Oops, we should get along with everybody. They're horrible people. You know, some people you just can't get along with. You can't. But whether we're going to have 4 years of incompetence and failure, or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country, that's what's going to happen. And I'm asking you to be excited about the future again. You have to be excited about it. We have a great potential. If we have to go another 2 days beyond that term, we're not going to have a great... We have to get this done now because we're not going to have a second chance. There'll never be a second chance. It's too far gone. We're really, we are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. But don't worry. We will not be a nation in decline for too much longer, I'll tell you. We'll be a nation of incline as opposed to decline. But I'm asking you to dream big again. You're going to have to dream big again. It's going to be hard for you to do that because you've gone through a long period. But we had some great 4 years. This will be America's new golden age. This will be better than what we had even 4 years ago. Remember, we were energy independent. We had everything. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. And this is a very important state. Number one, I love the state. Number two, we've always won. I won the primaries and I won the elections, and I didn't have to worry about it. So, if you think 2016, we did great. 2020, we did much better, actually. They say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. We only got about, 12 million more votes, right? But this is the best of all. This is more enthusiasm than there was for even 2016 or 2020. This is the best. Nobody's ever seen it. I just saw General Kellogg, wherever he may be backstage. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Look at that general. He's a real general, not like Millie. Not like Billy. Not like Kelly, low. He's a low IQ guy. But this is a real general. He's great. But he said backstage, this reminds me, sir, of 2016. I said, thank you very much. That's a good reminder, isn't it? He's a great guy. This Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala that you've had enough, that you're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here, Kamala. Get the hell out of here. The worst vice president The worst border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border in the history of the world that allowed criminals to pour through. 21 million people, think of it. Well, we're running a campaign of solutions to save America, an America which they have virtually destroyed during their almost 4-year period of rule. Kamala Harris, a low IQ individual, is running a campaign of hate, anger, and retribution. See, I'm very nice to them. They're not nice to us. She spends all of her time complaining about everything, but does nothing about it. She's going to do this, she's going to do that. Why the hell didn't she do it, right? So now she's talking about what she's going to do on the border. Well, I'm going to do this and that and this and that. All they had to do was leave the border alone. We had the safest border in the history of our country. In fact, to prove it, put up my chart, that favorite chart. I love that. I love that chart. That was the day I left office. We had the lowest number ever. The day I left office was where the red arrow is on the bottom. And then it became like an Elon Musk rocket ship, right? Look at that. Look what happens to it. Right after that, it went to hell. They let it go to hell. We had remain in Mexico. You couldn't come into our country. I had to remain. You think that was easy to get from Mexico? I had to be very threatening. I always said, you're not going to do it? No, sir, we're not. Why would we do that? I said, because if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on your cars coming in. Sir, took me about 1 minute. They went from, we will absolutely not do that, sir. Why would we do a thing like that? Remain in Mexico. They have to remain in your car. I said, no. I tell you why. You know why? They went from that to say, sir, we would be delighted to do whatever you'd like, whatever you. Now I said, we're going to put 100% tariff on your cars if you don't do it. So they said, we'd love to have our people we would love to have MS-13 gang members, criminals, people from mental institutions stay in our country. It would be our great honor, sir. It was really amazing. It took less than a minute. Or what she's going to do about inflation. I'm going to do things about it. She caused the inflation by screwing up my energy policies. She caused the inflation and spending way too much money on the Green New scam. She caused it. But why didn't she do something about it, right? Or what she's going to do to get the economy going. We're going to do this and that. Oh, by the way, her plans are the plans of a simpleton. They're not going to work. We'll be in a depression like 1929. What we're going to do to get the economy. But why didn't she do it? Why didn't she do all these things? She's saying, we're going to do this. She's trying to disassociate herself from Sleepy Joe Biden. I like this audience. I didn't say it. Well, the guy's, who just said that? He can handle himself. They scream, she's an idiot. But I didn't say it. I didn't say it. In fact, I'd like to admonish you, sir, you should not say that, please. This way, the press can't get me. You know, they say, well, I know you want to. It's really good. Well, no, I don't accept that. I would never accept a thing like that. No, but she is. He can handle himself, that guy, too. She and Crooked Joe head up the worst administration in the history of our country. They've made Jimmy Carter look like a truly great president. In all fairness to Jimmy, he didn't let 21 million people, many of them criminals and those that are mentally ill, pour into our country. He didn't Jimmy Carter didn't allow that to happen. Last night, Kamala made a speech, not much of one, with a paid-for audience, and all she talked about was Donald Trump.
speak about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
You are listening to Donald Trump rallying voters in North Carolina right now. It's very important to us that we let you hear both sides as these major candidates for the White House make their closing arguments to voters. So Donald Trump followed Kamala Harris there. There is a bit of breaking news that we want to get to, and that is a major escalation in Russia's incursion into Ukraine with the help of North Korea. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had this to say about reports that North Korean troops wearing Russian uniforms are now on the march headed towards Ukraine's border. Watch.
We believe that DPRK has sent some 10,000 troops into eastern Ukraine, and they've been drawing equipment and conducting some training, and some of those troops have begun to make their way towards the border of Ukraine in the Kursk region. Whether or not they'll be employed in the fight is left to be seen yet, but certainly if they are employed, then that's very disturbing. And so we remain concerned that they're going to use these troops in combat. I won't speculate on the timing of employment. But again, this is something we're going to continue to watch, and we're going to continue to work with allies and partners to discourage Russia from employing these troops in combat. Again, this is a violation of the UN Security Agreement. So this is pretty serious. Again, we're going to continue to watch it and continue to work with our allies and partners to discourage it. So.
네. 제가 이미 개회사에서 말씀드린 것처럼 북한 병력 10,000명가량이 러시아 동부 지역에 이미 배치가 되었고 이외에도 여기에 더해.
All right, listening in from the Pentagon there. We'll continue following those developments and bring any of the breaking news headlines that might come out of that. When we come back on CBS News 24/7, our eyes are also on the White House press briefing room. So many pressing matters here in the United States as Karine Jean-Pierre takes the microphone. We'll get back to her on the other side of this break. On the left side of your screen, announcements from the White House press briefing. We have many people listening in, and as soon as we get a headline out of that, we'll bring it to you. But also in real time, you're seeing Donald Trump at a rally in North Carolina. You know, before he took to that podium, the big question we as a news organization had was how much, or if at all, he would capitalize on what many people are calling a gaffe by President Joe Biden, referring in negative terms to Trump voters. The word by Biden, garbage. Listen to Donald Trump just a moment ago responding to that.
Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. And they mean it, even though without question my supporters are far higher quality than Crooked Joe or Lion Kamala. My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You just can't. And you can't be president if you hate the American people, and there's a lot of hatred there. Kamala Harris is not fit to be president of the United States. She doesn't have the intellect, the stamina, or that special quality that real leaders must have to lead. We know what that is. It's a special quality. Joe Biden's comments were the direct result of Kamala's and Tim Walz, you know? You know who that is? His decision to portray everyone who isn't voting for them as evil or subhuman. You're not subhuman. I'm looking at you. You are not subhuman. And we know it's what they believe because Look how they've treated you. They've treated you like garbage, frankly. They've treated you like garbage. You know what? The truth is they've treated our whole country like garbage, whether they meant to or not, because they're grossly incompetent people, and they've destroyed our country. Our country is suffering right now like it's never suffered with inflation. And with the infliction, think of it, they've allowed millions and millions of people to come into our country that are criminals, that are the highest level criminals. 13,099 Border Patrol, which endorsed me, by the way, very strongly. And it wasn't like I had any competition. 13,099 murderers, many of them murdered more than one person. 13,000, these are the numbers from Border Patrol during their term. 13,099 murderers were let into our country. You have drug lords, you have terrorists, you have people from mental institutions. They're all let into our country. And I actually feel it's number 2 or number 3 on the list of things. Number 1 is the economy. Number 2 is inflation. Number 3 is what they've done to our border, what they've done to our country. They call it immigration. It's not immigration. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I think that it's, frankly, should be number 1 on the list. I think inflation's terrible. What they've done with inflation is gross incompetence. But when they allow 21 million people, and it's probably much more, that doesn't even include the gotaways, you know, gotaways. These are people that just run across the border. What they've done to our country there's never going to be an excuse for what they've done to this country. For the past 9 years, Kamala and her party have called us racist, bigots, fascists, deplorables, irredeemables, Nazis, and they've called me Hitler. Call me Hitler. You know, many years ago, I had a father who was a great guy. He was a strong guy, a legitimate guy, strong. But, you know, he always used to tell me, never use the word Nazi and never use the word Hitler. Now we're called Nazis, and I'm called Hitler. I'm not Hitler. Boy, my father, he's looking down. Well, my mother, I know she's looking down. My father is a little questionable because he was a little rough. I think he's looking down because he was a good guy. He was a strong guy, but he was a good guy. But he's looking down. He said, can you imagine? That's what they're calling my son. I told them for years, literally, never use the term Nazi or Hitler. Now they're using it on us. It's unbelievable. They've bullied you. They've demeaned us. They've demonized us and censored us and deplatformed us and weaponized the power of our own government against us. They've gone after their political opponent, me. It's unbelievable. Did you see? Donald Trump wants to put us in jail. Donald Trump is going to go after some of the scum that you see back there, that's so dishonest. Donald Trump is doing horrible things. He wants to put us in prison. That's what they've been trying to do to me for 3 years. They got the story mixed up. And we won the big case in Florida already. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Remember? Oh, we got him in Florida. That was the documents case, and I had the Presidential Records Act and lots of other things. But Joe Biden had the same case except times 10. Because he took it out when he wasn't president. He did a lot of things. And they found him guilty, but they let him go because he was mentally incompetent. But they said he could be president. So they said, he can't stand trial. He's mentally incompetent. He's got no memory. And he's just got it. He just doesn't have what it takes, okay? But think of this. Here's the ruling. He can't stand trial because he's mentally incompetent, but he can be the president of the United States. Figure that one out. Mr. Congressman, figure that one out, Hudson. Can you imagine? They have taken your money. They've thrown open your borders to criminals and terrorists. They've flooded your towns with deadly drugs and death. They've given you jobs to illegal migrants and sent our blood and treasure to fight really stupid foreign wars, countries that you've never heard of, countries that you and your children have never even heard of. This Tuesday is your chance to stand up and declare that you are not going to take it anymore. You're not going to take it. 6 days from now, we can turn the page forever on this failed and corrupt administration. They are corrupt. They're failed and they're corrupt. They're the worst administration. Joe Biden is the worst president in the history of our country. And his partner, now she's trying to convince everyone, oh, well, I really had nothing to do with anything, you know. I'm sure he loves hearing that. She is the worst vice president in the history of our country. By the way, if you go back a few months, everybody was saying she's the worst vice president. She's incompetent. She's a dope. She's everything you can imagine. All of a sudden, they decided they better get politically correct, okay? And they chose her over 12 people that are far more competent. We can declare
Former President Donald Trump on the stump in North Carolina, and a resource for voters. Listen, whenever a candidate says anything from arguably one of the most powerful microphones in the world, we have a resource for you. It is called CBS Confirmed. You can find it on social media. Whenever any of the candidates talk about numbers or assertions or allegations or the history of things, comparing this time to other times in our nation's history, that can be a great resource for you as you do your homework and vet every word that is said from the microphone. All right, a bit of breaking news as it relates to Israel and Lebanon. We have an opportunity to go to the State Department where Matthew Miller is taking questions on Israel, calling for a full-scale evacuation of the city of Lebanon. Listen to this.
We support their right to go after legitimate Hezbollah targets, but in doing so, it is critical that they do so in a way that does not threaten the lives of civilians. That's especially true in densely populated areas like Baalbek. It's important that they not threaten the lives of journalists, UN peacekeepers, members of the Lebanese armed forces, and it's also critical that civilian infrastructure and significant cultural heritage sites be protected.
I'll continue with that. I mean, do you think this is the case with that? I mean, saying that there's a mass evacuation order. I mean, is that sort of a more targeted strike? I mean, is there any concern that, particularly after we've seen in Gaza, that there could be further destruction?
So a few things. First of all, we have made clear that the campaign they're conducting in Lebanon should not, cannot, must not look like the campaign that they have conducted in Gaza, and that we do not want to see that type of widespread damage. In terms of what the operation they're going to conduct, I don't know what it's going to be. I'll refer you to them to talk to that. But of course, when you are conducting a military operation in an area where civilians are operating, and we know that Hezbollah does embed itself among civilian targets, you want to actually see civilians evacuate. That's something our military advises. It's something the militaries advise around the world, that before you conduct a strike in a densely populated civilian area, a best practice is to urge that civilians evacuate the area so the military operation can be conducted, and then when it's concluded, civilians can return.
Let me ask you about the diplomatic aspects of that. There's a new leader of Hezbollah who said today that, I mean, essentially they're open to, I mean, within many conditions, I'm sure, but they're open in general to negotiating some sort of ceasefire. It seems that the Israeli cabinet was meeting last night on this. Where do things stand? I mean, does the U.S. in particular have an idea for how this can come to an end, and is the U.S. at this point calling for a ceasefire?
We do ultimately want to see a ceasefire, and we want to see a diplomatic resolution that allows civilians both in Lebanon and Israel return to their homes. Two White House officials, Brett McGurk and Amos Hochstein, are traveling to Israel to engage on issues including a diplomatic resolution in Lebanon, as well as how we get to an end to the conflict in Gaza and other regional matters. And one of the things that they are going to discuss is how we can find a diplomatic...
Listening in to Matthew Miller there at the State Department talking about U.S. response to what's going on with Israel and now Lebanon. We thank you for watching today on CBS News 24/7. Lana Zach takes over from here, watching both campaigns, the drumbeat to the very end, election night drawing near. We thank you for watching.